had the talent to defeat giants, the speed, the creativity, the most lethal forehand on clay. But every time he stepped onto the court, he was fighting two battles, one against his opponent and another against something no one could see. Panic attacks, explosive outbursts, disqualifications, fines that reached six figures. This is the story of the Italian tennis player who almost destroyed himself before finding the most unexpected ending. Fabio Fognini, born on May 24, 1987 in San Remo, a coastal town in northern Italy. At 4 years old, he picked up a racket for the first time, and something in that moment changed everything. He didn't play tennis like others. There was a flamboyance, a creativity, an almost artistic touch in every shot. His inside-out forehand was lethal. His movements, unpredictable. Fognini didn't follow the manual. He improvised. And that, while making him brilliant, also made him vulnerable. At 17, in 2004, he turned professional. The talent was there. The future seemed promising, but there was something no one saw on camera. An internal storm he would carry throughout his entire career. The question no one could answer was simple. Would Fabio Fognini be remembered for his genius or for his temperament? But before understanding the chaos, we need to go back to the beginning. San Remo was a small place, calm, a town where the sea met the mountains. And it was there that Fabio grew up, the son of a family that loved sports. Tennis wasn't a family tradition, but when he started playing, it became clear that this wasn't just a hobby. At 4 years old, he already showed a special affinity for red clay, the slow surface, where each ball bounced with more time, where patience and strategy made a difference. But Fognini was never patient. He was pure explosion. And that, from early on, was both his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. In his junior career, he reached 8th in the world rankings. He made it to the quarterfinals at Roland Garros and the Australian Open Juniors. The talent was proven, but professional tennis demanded something more: emotional control. And that was exactly what Fognini didn't have. His first major barrier wasn't technical, it was mental. He won impossible matches and lost games he should have won easily. He'd climb to the top of a set and collapse in the next. It was like watching two different players inside the same body. In 2011, he reached the quarterfinals of Roland Garros, his best Grand Slam result until then. He was one step away from making history, but a thigh injury forced him to withdraw from the match against Novak Djokovic. The body failed, but the mind had been failing for a long time. He would reveal years later that at that time, he was already suffering from panic attacks. The pressure, the expectations, the weight of representing Italy, all of this was crushing him from the inside. But he didn't talk about it, because in tennis, vulnerability was seen as weakness. So Fognini did what he knew how to do. He kept it all inside and continued playing. But the price for that was only beginning to show. 2013. Fabio Fognini wins his first ATP title in Stuttgart. Then comes Hamburg and Umag, 3 titles in 1 year. The talent everyone had seen since childhood was finally transforming into results. He was fast, creative, unpredictable. His shots seemed improvised, but they were calculated. He pulled off impossible comebacks, defeated favorites, and when he was on, he could beat anyone. But the problem was exactly that when he was on, because on bad days, Fognini wasn't just defeated. He imploded, screamed at umpires, broke rackets, gave up entire games on purpose. In 2013 in Cincinnati, he committed 2 double faults in a row and then 2 intentional foot faults just to hand the game to Radek Stepanek, as if to say, if I'm going to lose, it'll be on my terms. The ATP circuit began to see him as a problem player. Talented, yes, but too unpredictable to be reliable. And it was during this time that he started facing the giants. Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic. The golden era of tennis, the three greatest of all time playing simultaneously. And Fognini had to compete against them. Against Federer, the record was brutal, 0-4. Fognini never won a single set, but he held no grudge. Years later, he would say that losing to Federer was different, because it was losing to the best of all. But with Nadal, that was another story. Fognini had something few players possessed. He wasn't afraid of Nadal on clay. And in 2015, he proved it devastatingly. US Open, third round. Fognini was down 2-0. Logic said, the match is over. Nadal had won 151 consecutive Grand Slam matches when opening 2-0. But Fognini didn't know about statistics. He only knew how to play. And he turned it around, set by set, game by game, until he won. For the first time in history, Rafael Nadal lost a Grand Slam match after opening 2-0 in sets. And the one who caused it was Fabio Fognini. That year, he defeated Nadal 3 times. He was one of only 4 players to achieve that in a single season. But the most important victory was still to come. Monte Carlo, 2019, the most prestigious Masters 1000 on clay. Fognini was playing the best season of his life. And in the semi-finals, he would face Rafael Nadal again. Nadal was a 3-time champion of the tournament, the absolute king of clay. But that day, Fognini was relentless. He won. And in the final, he claimed the title. Fabio Fognini became the first Italian in history to win a Masters 1000. He was 32 years old. And for the first time in his career, he entered the top 10, reaching 9th place in July 2019. He also became the oldest player to debut in the top 10 since 1973. It seemed like the peak, the recognition he always deserved, but there was a price being paid in silence. Because while the world saw victories, Fognini was fighting something invisible. His own mind. He would reveal later that throughout his entire career, he suffered from panic attacks, that the pressure suffocated him. That many times, he entered the court already defeated from within. And that explained everything. The explosions, the anger, the inexplicable collapses. It wasn't lack of talent, it was the weight of carrying an internal battle that no one could see. And it was that weight that led him to the darkest moments of his career. US Open, 2017, first round. Fognini was disqualified for using misogynistic language against a female umpire. Fine of $96,000. Conditional suspension from 2 Grand Slams. Wimbledon, 2019. He said during a match that he wished a bomb would explode in the club. Fine of $3,000. Barcelona, 2021. Disqualified for unsportsmanlike conduct after verbal abuse toward a line judge. He was destroying his own image. And worse still, he was destroying himself. But there was something Fognini never lost, the ability to surprise. Wimbledon. July 9th, 2025. Fabio Fognini was 38 years old. His body no longer responded like before. Constant injuries, falling ranking. He was technically near the end. His original plan was to retire in 2026 at the Monte Carlo Masters 1000, the place where he won his greatest title, close to home, surrounded by those he loved. But tennis has its own script, and it doesn't always follow the plan. First round of Wimbledon, Fognini would face Carlos Alcaraz, 2-time champion of the tournament, one of the greatest promises in world tennis. It was the type of draw that seemed like an early farewell. A veteran against the future of the sport. But Fognini didn't walk onto that court just to participate. He entered to fight, and he fought. First set, Fognini wins, 7-5. The crowd, surprised, starts to rise. This wasn't supposed to be happening. Second set, Alcaraz responds, tie-break, tense, tight. Alcaraz takes it 7-6. Third set, Fognini comes back, 7-5. He's pushing one of the best tennis players in the world to the limit. Fourth set. Alcaraz finally finds his rhythm, 6-2. He ties the match, fifth set decisive. Over 4 hours of play, Fognini was exhausted, but he continued point by point, game by game, until Alcaraz closes it out, 6-1, defeat. But when Fognini got up, he wasn't breaking rackets. He wasn't screaming. He was smiling, because in that moment, he understood something. This wasn't just a defeat. It was the perfect closure. He played on the most beautiful court in the world, against one of the best players of the new generation. He took the match to 5 sets, and he did it in front of his family, including his oldest son, Federico, who was there watching his father fight until the end. And when he left the court, something unexpected happened. In the locker room, the other players stood up and gave him an ovation, a silent acknowledgement of respect, of admiration. Fabio Fognini had been controversial, explosive, difficult, but he had also been talented, courageous, human. And there, in that moment, he announced he was retiring, not in 2026 as planned, but that day, because there was no better way to say goodbye. He said the last 3 years had been filled with suffering because of injuries, that as a competitor, he didn't want to play smaller tournaments just to maintain his ranking anymore, that he wanted to stop while he could still choose. And he chose Wimbledon, he chose Alcaraz, he chose his family by his side. Fabio Fognini ended his career with 9 ATP singles titles, 1 Masters 1000, 1 Grand Slam doubles title, and the record of being the first Italian to enter the top 10 at 32 years old. But more than that, he ended in peace. And perhaps that was his greatest victory. Fabio Fognini was never perfect, and he never pretended to be. He had the talent to defeat giants, and he had the demons that almost destroyed him. He made history and tarnished his own image. He was loved and hated, admired and criticized, but in the end, he did something few can. He chose his own exit, because sometimes the greatest victory isn't the title. It's the ability to look back and feel it was worth it, that you gave everything you had, that you fought against opponents and against yourself, and that, in the end, you found peace. Fabio Fognini fought against Rafael Nadal on clay, against Roger Federer at Wimbledon, against Djokovic, against Alcaraz, against the entire world. But the hardest fight was always against the man in the mirror. And perhaps, just perhaps, he won that one too. If you made it this far, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more stories of athletes who went beyond the courts, fields, and tracks. And now I ask you, if you had Fognini's talent, but also the internal battles he faced, would you have been able to make it to the end? Leave your answer in the comments. Until next time.